statement to the police, they categorically mentioned a name of one of the sub-chiefs as being the one who sanctioned the flogging. And so, unfortunately, police hasn't gotten him yet, and we are in his fields to get him.
Well, so that is the story from the police, and the public flogging has been widely condemned. In fact, for the local youth, how dare the police interfere in the traditional administration of justice? They felt the sex video violated their local traditions, culture, and values, and deserved to be punished according to custom. So some rioted, disturbing the peace to register their protest when the police arrested suspects. So tonight we connect Ghana and beyond to explore this conflict between modernity and tradition and the clash between human rights and culture that has for many years fueled tensions in many traditional communities across the country. We'll connect after the break. 7 FM. This is Ghana Connect. My name is Evans Mensah and I'm here with Kweku Asante. Now, Kweku, this video left many shocked and outraged this week.
Is that of a woman and her lover being flogged in public, watching on and cheering as each stroke of the whip landed on the bodies of this young woman and her lover. They were both tied to a pole reminiscent of the ancient burning of witches who were tied and burned at the stake. Their crime was just that they had filmed themselves having sex and circulated the video. The police have now confirmed the public flogging was authorized by some traditional chiefs who felt the act of recording a sex video was against the custom and traditions of the people of Wa in the Upper West region.
And the police obviously had been speaking about this when it happened.
What the people we have arrested, the first three, two of them happen to be sub-chiefs. And in their statement to the police, they categorically mentioned a name of one of the sub-chiefs as being the one who sanctioned the flogging. And so, unfortunately, police hasn't gotten him yet, and we are in his fields to get him.
So, Evans, the public flogging has so far been widely condemned, but for the local youth, how dare the police interfere in the traditional administration of justice? They felt the sex video violated their traditional, their culture, their values, and deserved to be punished according to their custom. So some rioted, disturbing the peace to register their protest when the police arrested their suspects, some suspects. So tonight we connect Ghana and beyond to explore this conflict between modernity and tradition and the clash between human rights and culture that for many years has fueled tensions in many traditional communities across the country.
So we're connecting to a host of individuals here in Accra, across the country, in Wa, just to get a taste and have a conversation on this conflict that we have noticed when it comes up every now and then. Delighted to be connecting tonight to a man who is a traditional ruler himself, and he straddles quite nicely between modernity and tradition. He knows this. He has to walk that fine line every day. Nana Nsakwal is my guest, connecting on the phone. Hello, Nana. And then I will connect with us via phone. Also connecting, Rafiq Salam is our correspondent in the Upper West Regional Capital. Why? He's also connected with us. Rafiq.
Hello, Evans.
Great to have you, Rafiq. Rafiq, beside being a reporter himself, Rafiq is more of an authority on everything else Upper West. And so I've asked him to join it because there's a context to this. This just didn't happen out of the blue. There's something that triggered what happened. And I want to understand that. I want to get the nuanced context that led to this. You may have seen the flogging, but the deeper matters that relevant to the people in Upper West region and what to be specific that fueled this. He's joining us. Another person who's joining us, another connector tonight, with a deep understanding of the culture and tradition, the values of the people of the Upper West region and what to be specific, is Said Abdul Shakur. and he also connects with us. Hello, Said. Hello, Said. And we expect Said to connect with us on Zoom. Said, if you're on Zoom, please unmute and let me hear you. Also connecting tonight is Shaib Abdul Rashid, a social activist, a Muslim, a woman who is very committed and devout. Hello, Shaib.
Hi,
Hello,
Evans.
Shaiba. Thank you very much for connecting. Great to have
Thank
you.
you.
Nikome is an African studies scholar, also connecting on Zoom. Hello, Ni. Ni, please unmute. Elisha Wusu is a liberal millennial. That's a very interesting tag. Hello, Elisha.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
Great, Elisha. Nikome, are you with me? African studies scholar. Okay. We'll be connecting to all of these to get a perspective on this very interesting conversation. Indeed, wherever you are tonight, you can connect yourself. The best way to do so, 05511119997 is the WhatsApp line you need to be connecting to, and also on Twitter is hashtag Ghana Connect. On our Facebook pages as well, feel free to hit us up on Joy 99.7. And let's hear your thoughts. Rafiq, I wanna start with you, Rafiq. Rafiq, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes, Rafiq. Let me start with you. Give us the local cultural and traditional context that may have fueled this public flogging we all saw this week.
Let me start this way. Somewhere around 2021, the Wa municipality hardly a week passes without us seeing a leaked sexual video, and also the issue of gays and then lesbians also came to the fore. And so the Wala traditional area, or should I say, the people who are the opinion leaders or the leadership who are not really happy with the situation, try to find solution to that. If you know what very well, what use the traditional system of governance we call the tripod system, where you have the imams, you have the Yerenemine, and then also you have the royals. And so any of these poles cannot function without the other. And so they wanna call this leadership, the Yerena, the imams, and also the royals to find a lasting solution to it. And so one issue that came to the fore was to see these religious leaders to go to the mosques and also to go to the churches for them to use their sermons and also the purpose to preach against some of these indecent things that are happening in the one municipality. After that, this group of young men also were also formed to see to it that anybody found culpable, in this case talking about these leaked sexual videos or gays or lesbianism, should be brought to the one house palace.
So you're saying that the group was deliberately formed to deal with, sex videos, etc., etc.
Yes, that was exactly what happened. And so, as for the issue of gays and lesbianism, let me say that the group has been able to succeed in that, because any known gay or lesbian that we have in town, they will do their best, try to set you up. And for me, for them, they say they have been successful. They have been able to be. They have been successful to a large extent to chase them out of the municipality. And then the issue of leaked sexual videos also somewhere was halted until last Monday, when we got this sexual video viral. And so the youth, for the next 24 hours on Monday, they will comb around the community and they were able to get the alleged actors of the sexual partners, the lovebirds. And so they were able to get them, and then they brought them to the one house palace for the one to pronounce this sentence on them. But unfortunately, on their part, at the time that they were at the palace, the one was not there. He was outside the palace attending a meeting. But there were some few elders, some third chiefs around, and then I'm told allegedly, allegedly told the young guys to give them punishment that were necessary. Initially, they wanted to give them 100 lashes, but they were saying that since they were first-time offenders, they will reduce the punishment to about 20 lashes. And so when they were even lashed, they lashed about 9 or 10. They didn't even get up to the 20, but that was exactly what happened. But this thing was done in the public view, and so you have several people. There was no mainstream journalists around. You have people publicly watching and shouting and encouraging them to whip them. And then after that, you have these cameras, and then you have people who are having their
personal people were just recording this on their phone,
and it went viral.
And
that's exactly what happened in Apple.
If you see the whipping of the lady, for example, tied to the stakes and being whipped, the people who were, a lot of them were cheering it because from what you've explained, the community, because of the previous experiences you cite, had agreed that this is an affront to our local culture and traditions and values, and so we formed the group. If it happens again, that group will look for you and they'll deal with it. And as you've explained, Rafiq, the process was the group, the vigilante boys that have been formed for the enforcing the moral code, will go and pick you up, bring you to the traditional palace, and then the traditional authorities will then pronounce a verdict, so to speak, and then they will prescribe the punishment. That's how it worked, right?
Yes, that's how it's supposed to work.
That's how it's supposed to
work. What exactly transpired in this case, like I told you, the society mirrors the Wana. Wa also mirrors the Wana. And so whatever that happens in the society, at least the Wana is the head, he's the overlord of the Wala Traditional area. And so they couldn't have taken that decision by themselves. It was based on that group that was formed, and that's why you have this statement coming from the spokesperson of the Wala, the spokesperson of the Wana, and then you have another statement, the Wana making a U-turn.
Okay.
Because both the society, the Wala society, and then also the overlord, they mirrored each other. And so there's no way that the Wana at this material moment could turn his back on the people. Because if he did, or if he does, anything that happens in subsequent years, if there's any issue that he calls them to do, they may not come.
Okay.
So having those fears, that's why you have a U-turn of that statement.
Yeah, I mean, and Rafiq, stay with me. I want to stay in WA for a bit because there's a bit more to interrogate here. And Said Abdul Shakor is also connecting. He has a very deep understanding of the local values, the customs, etc. And he's joining us with a perspective on this. Hello, Said.
Yes, hello.
Great to have you connecting with us, Said.
Thank you.
And Said, help me here. I know this is a deeply religious community as well. Is it all about the culture and the tradition, or there is also a heavy dose of religion, as the Muslim, religious values that all come together to fuel the flogging that we saw? And explain to us what aspects of religion and culture is fusing to get this happening.
It's impossible to look at the war custom or culture without Islam. If you listen to Rafiq Salam, he said there was a tripod system. The one that can hardly perform any function.
Said, do you have a radio? Do you have a radio on where you are? If you have, please put it off for me because I'm having an interference.
Hello, Said. Yes, hello. Great to have you connecting with us, Said.
Or is it Rafiq?
I know this is.
Okay.
You still have it.
Okay, great. It's off now. Thank you. You can proceed and let's hear you.
Yes, I was saying that WA operates a tripod system like Rafiq Salam said. It means that the Wana can hardly operate without the influence of the religious leaders. And anytime Wana sits in council, he's flanked by at least 4 paramount chiefs, the chief imam, and the Yerna. The Yerna and the chief imam are all religious actors. They're actually the religious leaders of the Wa traditional area.
So that's Yana and the chief imam. So there's a Wana, I guess, representing the tradition and the custom, and then the chief imam representing the religion, the religious aspect of this.
Yes, and the Yana is the leader that brings in the chief imam. So that is how Wa system is. So there's hardly any cultural practice in Wa that has not got Islamic influence.
So would you say that the flogging we saw was influenced by the cultural and religious influences you just touched on?
The flogging we saw, the way it is, was an aberration. It was, if they was to be flogging, and there has been flogging, and we must be honest about this because you're talking to you. But those flogging happens inside homes. Some, we are old enough to witness some of them. But this is the first time that flogging happened with somebody tied to the stakes and cameras on him, and then it was happening. It has never happened that way.
So how does it, based on the culture and the religion, what was the prescription? What should have happened?
What should have happened is that there were so many breaches. What should have happened is that the one I would have sent for the head of family of the victims at this stage, I mean the lovers. The one I would have sent from the heads of family, and then ask the head of family to bring them to the one as palace. When they produce them, Wana and his sub-chiefs will now sit in judgment and allow them to open what we will call, for want of a better expression, open their defense. After their allegations have been raised against them, they will call upon to open their defense. If after that process, the Wana is not convinced that they have any justifiable defense to put up, they will now pronounce judgment on them. But this open flogging or tied to the stakes is a novelty. It has never happened.
So if the Wana in that instance you cite found them guilty, and pronounced, what was it? What is he allowed to, in terms of punishment? What is he allowed to do?
Among other things, will be serious fines, and it could even lead to banishment. They could be fined. Their families could be made to pay a fine. They themselves could be asked to leave the town until such time that the Wana is satisfied to bring them back into the town, or until that such time they show behavior or conduct that suggests that they have actually atoned for their sins. They could allow them back into the society.
Is it allowed in the spectrum of punishments that a Wana could impose that the family, cane or flog the person? Okay.
Yes, it is allowed, and it's actually one of the. But this one depends on the age. It's not everybody that can be ordered to be flogged. Mostly young people who have demonstrated recalcitrance are the ones that can be ordered to be flogged, either by their family members or by certain persons in the palace.
And would this punishment would it be done publicly?
No, it will not be done publicly. This public humiliation we've never seen it. At least I have been so long in Wa, I've grown and lived in Wa. We've never seen this public humiliation ever. I'm very much convinced if One House Council was properly constituted, we wouldn't have this thing.
So you're saying that if the proper traditional religious process was followed, the worst would have seen was a flogging, but would have been done by the parent or somebody else authorized to do so, but within the confines of the palace where only the family and the Wana and his team will be.
Yes, but this open and public flogging would never have happened if Wana and his elders had sat in council. And let me add this bit. Yesterday, the Regional Security Council engaged the Wana and his council. All the paramount chiefs were present, and I was detailed to explain the law, aspects of the law, and what they need to do under certain circumstances. The Wana and his elders told us clearly and categorically that what has happened was an aberration, and that what has happened was not what they would have done. They said that they would punish anybody that was found either practicing same-sex relationship and then any form of nudity.
Okay. I mean, so you've given us a good understanding of what the local traditional and religious rules say. So stay with me. Let me now that we understand what was happening, the nuances in this, I want to bring in our other connectors and Kweku, yourself, you're a devout Muslim, right? And so you hear the fusion between religion and culture that led to this, and as you've heard explained, flogging is part of the rules and it's acceptable. The way it should have been done, flog, but privately. Whatever it is, a flogging.
So we know that under Sharia law, some of these things can be done. For instance, if someone stole, for instance, the hands of that person could be cut off under Sharia law. But this is Ghana. We don't practice Sharia law here. And so that is a bit of the difficulty. But let's go to Shaiba Abdul Rashid. She is connecting with us on Zoom. Shaiba is on Zoom. Shaiba, can you unmute?
Hello, Shaiba, can you hear us?
Hi, I'm here.
Right, Shaiba. So, I mean, as a Muslim yourself and a devout one at that, hearing all that you've heard, particularly from Mr. Shakur, what are your own perspectives to this issue?
Personally, I do not agree with the mode of punishment. I mean, I heard the other panelists mention that it's part of the cultural sort of laws, and I understand that we have bylaws in the country, but I think that this punishment in particular sort of is being derived from Sharia law, which is almost known as Islamic law in some way. But my problem is that we do not practice Sharia law in Ghana. And I think this issue, in as much as we do not want to face it for what it is, stems from our lack of sexual education in Ghana and basically seeing the youth as like sort of sex crazy people who do not know what to do. I think that this situation was an avenue for more education, and I do not agree with fear mongering or using fear to curb people's ways, or thinking that if you flog people, other people are going to think, oh my God, they have been flogged. I do not want to be flogged. They are probably going to think, oh my God, I should try to not get caught. So if what they are trying to curb is sexual immorality, I do not think that flogging people in public as that is what would sort of curb the sexual immorality that they are trying to.
Shaba, you understand also that punishment is not only to change people, it's also to punish. And so although it may not necessarily deter others from doing so, at least these ones know the cost of doing this, and at least these two persons will probably not engage in this anymore.
I absolutely agree with you, and I think it just goes back to my point saying that I do not like the fact that that was the form of punishment that was used. I think it was an opportunity for better education for like other people in the community. And I read some articles where the families of these young people have agreed to get them married. And it just blows my mind that this is an avenue to put two people together to live the rest of their lives. These are probably very immature people who have not sort of figured their life out yet, and putting them together in marriage for a mistake they made at this age to live forever sounds absolutely like it's just ridiculous to me. And I do not think that it is an avenue to put people together like they are supposed to get married because just to serve as, I read that it was to serve as deterrent to others. And it really blows my mind that has to be the next step of direction or the next course of action.
Very, very, very quickly, because you're a Muslim yourself, and so the explanation is that the right way this should have happened. Would you be okay if they have followed the procedure where they would have been flogged, yes, but privately in front of the wala, the chiefs, and the family, as custom?
You see, no. I do not think that the problem, even though might be also that they were flogged in public, is that they were flogged in if they were flogged privately, it will be okay. because regardless, they would still have been flogged. So it doesn't take away from the punishment or the form of punishment in any way. I mean, if you are slapped in public and you are slapped out like in private, you were still slapped. It doesn't matter. Just that the embarrassment probably would be more because the one was in public and one was in private. And
Shaba, stay with me. Let me bring in Elisha, who's a liberal millennial who's joining us now. Elijah, very quickly. So we've explored the dynamics there, but there's a reason why we have customs and traditions, and they've served us well for ages. In fact, many argue that the moral decadence we've seen is because we've become too modernized and westernized, and we are giving away our culture and values and tradition and religious, values, and people there in the wanted to simply enforce that and to restore some moral, sanity in a society. We can't throw away our customs, right? If it says flog privately, privately. What do you say about that?
So good evening to your audience and good evening to everyone else on the show. I respect people's beliefs and their need to respect what they believe in. However, the problem here is the first thing you said, that our culture has served us well, is a big lie, and I could spend the whole year talking about how that is not true. But if anybody thinks I am telling lies, they can look at our surroundings and the community that we live in. This is not a community that has been served well by any morals. The conversation that the morals have fallen through the cracks recently is also untrue. Most of the things that are happening now were happening back then. The only difference now is that there's social media and everybody has a mobile phone, so they can capture what is going on. At least this is not the generation that was or is practicing certain problematic cultural actions that were inhumane. So I think when it comes to morality, this particular generation is probably clear. I think it's high time we probably begin to reimagine society in Ghana. And I say this with absolutely no disrespect, but our culture has failed us and we need to change the way we do things. The flogging was unnecessary and it shouldn't have happened. Here's a very quick one. I'm a Christian and part of my family comes from the northern part of Ghana. Imagine a situation where I belong to a particular religion, not even Christianity or Islam, and then I'm living in a part of Accra and I'm subjected to the belief systems of any of these other religions because I am living in Accra. I don't think that would be fair to me, and I don't think any other religion would be happy that another religion or another person is subjecting them to the rules of their culture or their belief system. The conversation then becomes, all the people in the city or in the town have agreed to it, and so it is fine. I mean, in most instances, a lot of these people don't have a choice. This is where they grew up. This is where they have their family. So they just have to go with things as they are. It does not necessarily mean things have to be the way it is. I'm making sure I choose my words really properly. Do not have to be exactly the way they are, because society has evolved. If somebody commits a crime, if somebody does something that is wrong and it's against the law, you take the person to the police station and the police will deal with the person. You let the person go through the judiciary. If the person is found guilty, then that particular person is dealt with. We don't have to go back to these systems where we decide on our own who is guilty and we are our own judge. The problem here is not that the traditional system is not capable of probably dispensing some sort of justice, but the problem here is things like this can be abused. And the people that are using it today could be the same people that these particular systems would be used against. So I'm not quite sure why anybody thinks that letting anybody flog someone for committing an offense, if there's an offense in the law that they have gone against, then hand them over to the police. If it is a conversation about what you believe is right or wrong, you are fine to advise the person or the person's family. But I don't think punishment is in your hands as an individual, because once again, you began the conversation by saying that the generation before us is morally upright. As I said, so many examples. That is not true. So they definitely can't be the ones who are going to be like the moral police of our society.
Yeah, I mean, and you see the tension there between modernity, tradition, and culture, right? I mean, we have the Nansa call joining us now. And stay with me, Elijah, who is a traditional ruler, but walks that fine line almost all the time. I wonder what he makes of that. Kuku.
It's a good time talking about culture and whether it's helped us or not to bring in Nana Nsakwa, who himself is a traditional leader. Nana, so some of our guests have opined that tradition has not helped us in this respect. Is this an example, or does this specific case buttress the point that tradition is certainly doing us in, Nana?
Well, good evening to you. Good evening to all the cherished listeners. I don't know of any African tradition, particularly Ghanaian. I don't know of any Ghanaian tradition that includes flogging. Definitely within the Akan system, I don't know of flogging or even caning being part of our culture. So sometimes people would say that, oh, our culture is demeaning, and I can tell you 95% of the things they are referring to are things that we adopted, and not necessarily an indigenous culture. Well, even though, I mean, you can make something your culture if you practice it too much. But I don't know if flogging is a Ghanaian culture.
Nana, we've heard tonight from Wa and from an expert in their traditions that you have this tripartite system that govern as far as the tradition culture is concerned. You have the imam, the wana, and another traditional authority, and in that system, flogging is part of the punishment for such moral decadence, and that except that the way it was done was not what was prescribed. That you do the flogging, but you do it with the family and with the wana sitting in judgment.
I can't speak to that culture, but I know, speaking to my culture, I don't know where you can flog anyone because they did something wrong. Yes, you can find somebody. They can probably, humiliate you by, sitting in state and talking about what you did immorally, and at worst, banish you from the society, the community. But flogging, I don't know flogging.
But if it's true that it's part of the local customs and traditions and religious practices there in the local community in Wa, that is their custom and culture, right? And as a traditionalist yourself, what would you say to that? If that's what the culture says do, you do it, is it not?
No, you see, culture is also dynamic, and we have moved on. So, for instance, there was a teacher in my community, displaying pedophilia, behavior. Now, I gave him the option that, listen, you leave the town or I report you. So it's a form of punishment. But then I gave him the option. I didn't go to his house to drag him out and throw him out. But I gave him the option. Now, guess what? He didn't go. I called the education ministry or districts to come. When they came and did the investigation, and within an hour, they realized that no, the guy was a threat to children. They even asked if I can give him 2 weeks before he moves out. And I said, no, I wanted him out. So, you see, if it's part of your culture, you should find somewhere within the modern law that it fits. Because, you don't want to infringe on somebody's human rights. So I think, you see, and the thing is, I don't know what they did and how it infringes on, or how it breaks the law, because they did what they did in private, and somehow the thing got leaked. So are they being beaten because it got leaked, or is it being beaten because it got private? So I don't know. But
okay, so Nana, you asked a very important question, but there's something I want to come back to you on once I get clarity to whether the punishment was because they had sex in the first place when they were not married, or is it because they did so, recorded it and leaked it? Because I'll come back to something you talk about banishment, right? But I want to go back to Said Abdul Shakur. Said Shakur, are you still with me?
I am here.
Okay, please explain to me. In the local custom and culture and tradition, is the punishment for having sex when you're not married, two young people having sex, or is it because you did so and you recorded
that
and
is not a punishment,
okay.
And that that is not the punishment.
I guess what is the offense? I guess the question of the offense is what?
The offense was they themselves confessed. I wasn't there, but the report I got from the palace is that they confessed that the lady leaked it.
So the offense is the publication of the sex video. Okay.
The nude material. Nobody has any business, and it has never been anybody's culture to go knocking on whose doors to see who is having sex with the other. In actual fact, the standard for establishing that a sexual fornication has taken place is so high that it cannot even be met. Because you must have 4 witnesses that saw the act before you can even invoke it. So the issue was not about the sex. The issue was about the publication.
Well, but very interesting distinction there. Nana Sakwa, does it answer your question? Does it clarify anything for you?
Well, it doesn't. Did they like willingly publicize, like to show off that look at us, we are good at sex, or did it leak by accident? So I don't know.
But okay, but I guess does it matter that it's out there, right? And somehow the nudity.
No, but no. Let's Evans. Let's say we were chatting privately and we were, let's say abusing somebody very important. If that message happened to leak out, somebody stole my phone and sent it out. Are you punishing me because I had a private conversation or because he accidentally leaked out? I can't link it. Or was it deliberately to show off? That's why they were spreading it. I don't know. You see, I can't speak to it. I'm just trying to find out what actually is the offense.
Interesting questions from Nana and Sakwa over there. We also have on Zoom with us Brother Sharhan.
And I'll bring Brother Shahan in first. But there's something Nana Sakwa said that I want to quickly interrogate a bit more, still exploring the clash shortly. But Nana, because you said earlier that banishment, for example, is acceptable in your traditional area, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, but banishment will conflict with the laws of the land. There's nowhere that it's legal for a traditional authority or a traditional person, a traditional ruler like yourself to have the power to banish, for example. And that will also be equivalent to flogging.
Okay, so put it this way. A teacher is posted into my community. Now, he takes little girls to his room, locks the door and says they are doing homework. Takes little girls to his room, locks the door and says they are cooking for him. Now, even though the girls haven't said to me that the teacher has, mishandled them in any way, it's not right. And so I tell the teacher, look, teacher, if you do this thing, I won't let you stay in this town. And then it happened again. So I gave him the option. Either you go or I make it a police case.
Okay, now stay with me. Let me bring in Elijah Wusu Achara. So you didn't like flogging. What about banishment? Hello, Elijah. If you're on mute.
Yeah. Hello. I am here. I don't support, and I don't think we should generally support anything that goes directly against the laws of the land. So if the traditional body does not have the authority to do something, then they shouldn't do it. However, I can understand to an extent the situation that Nana just described, because there are instances where, as traditional leaders, leadership is expected of you and you need to act. But then once again, he mentions that you don't have to breach or infringe on the human rights of an individual. You see, but the problem here is an individual's freedom of movement cannot be infringed upon by another person unless, like, the law has given the mandate for that to happen.
Unless, I guess what you want, unless it's been pronounced by a court of competent jurisdiction. Only a court can do so. That's what exactly. Sorry, I didn't use legal lingo, but yeah, that's what I meant, right? So there is a problem there. And the issue here with all of this is not just about the actions, right? The flogging is really, really scary. The banishment is not so bad. But the problem here is that when we live in a country where we are not only going according to the laws, it leaves room for a lot of things to happen. So because he can banish, someone else can flog. Like, I don't know if you get the conversation. So if we really, really want to protect people,
everyone just needs to go according to the law.
So that
and I think that's the only
the
way.
laws of the land will be used instead of traditional leaders taking that upon themselves, you mean?
Exactly.
Right. Let me also ask Shaiba. Shaiba.
Second, I think Nana Sakwa wants a quick input.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Evans, you see, you're talking as though traditional leaders have come from Mars and don't know what time it is. Listen, I can give you, quite a few instances. Now, this teacher that I got banished did not come from the town, and therefore I couldn't do anything. On another instance, there was a local citizen who also did the same thing, and I got him in prison. I mean, is that not banishment? You know, I can't go and beat you, I can't hold you, but if what you did was wrong, I can step in terms of protecting the child. Now, like in Edumastan, you're not supposed to chop a tree. If you chop a tree, I will get forestry, I will get CID, and I will have you jailed. Is that not banishment? I mean, so it's not as though when they say banish, the chief puts on his kente glove, goes to the house, drag you by the hand, and take you somewhere. No, but the laws will take place. You don't chop my tree. If you chop my tree, you are in trouble. Don't touch my children. If you touch my children, you are in trouble. So, so it's not as though, we can't ban, it's against somebody's human rights. What about a child's human rights? And if I'm the chief of the town, and this little cheater is locking girls up in the room, I sit there and say he has rights. Rights to do what? Leave my town.
Very interesting.
Leave my children alone.
Very interesting dynamic, and how I am fascinated by the way you blend that tradition with the modernity, as in what the law says and what the traditional authority and your traditional powers prescribe. Let's expand this a bit more. Let's get a deeply religious perspective to the conversation now.
Okay, a good time to bring in Sharhan. Sharhan, you support Sharia law or some of these punishments. In this instance, do you support the punishment that was meted out to the young lady and the gentleman?
Good evening, Evans, and your team over there. Nice to join you guys here. First of all, this whole issue about the flogging, right? From the Islamic perspective, let's take that very quick. So in Islam, we have what you call hudud. Hudud are basically kind of punishments that you met out to people depending on the severity of the punishment. Can you hear me? Depending on the severity of the punishment coupled with evidences. Now, with regards to what they have done, that is, if you have illicit sexual intercourse with someone that you are not legally married to, and then enough evidence is brought in this situation, that is like 4 people have to come out clearly, right? And then if those 4 people are not out, then the 2 people in question, they both agree that yes, we've done this particular act, then we can invoke Quran chapter 24 verse 2, which clearly states that the person who commits zina, that is not married, with another person, your punishment is to be flogged 100 lashes. And then the verse concluded by saying that and that particular punishment should be witnessed by a portion of believers. Right. So what is my take on this? Islamically, I completely, honestly agree with this. Right. Now, the issue is now what they have done, were they following this particular, will I say, verse or this particular law? First of all, I'm from Wa. And the information I've received is that they were not lashed 100 kings. So clearly they were lashed 20 kings, right? So which means this was not something, if even they intended to, but if I were to ask, was the law followed? I would say no. And then secondly here is that, are we practicing Islamic law? I mean, this conversation keep on coming all the time. People try to bring, these topics create some kind of like sensationalism. So when people tend to bring questions like, we don't practice Islamic law, we don't, Ghana is not an Islamic country. This is where they're trying to arrive at. For me, I don't have a thought about the punishment to say whether it's right or not. What I believe strongly in is that it's an Islamic law and it works. But in this situation, was that what was meted out? And I said, I don't think that was what was meted out. In the first situation, nobody made reference to it. In the second situation, I've not had any conversation about they bringing witnesses. I mean, one of the panelists actually talked about they confessing to it. Absolutely, that's fine. But if they were not lash-handed, I don't think that is what they were going with. But even if it were so, someone in Islam,
this is not an Islamic country. This is not a country that practices Sharia law. And so, can some people constitute themselves as implementers of Sharia law in Ghana?
Right. So that is where the conversations come in, because Upper West is a predominant Muslim community. I mean, what specifically, what municipality? So if you ask me, do we practice Sharia law or do we practice Sharia? I would say no, I've not seen it being practiced, right? But because of the volume of Muslims living there, can they integrate aspects of their religious beliefs into their own laws, in what is termed as bylaws? Yes, they can. That is the situation here. So if they decide not to fully implement the 100 lashes or whatever they want to do, if someone had committed such a crime in Islam, but they try to take a portion of that, then that's where this conversation comes out about,
So let me bring in Shaiba again. Shaiba, in terms of all that you've heard, what do you think should be done going forward? Especially for these people of Wa and even for political authorities, what action do you think they'll take so that we don't go back to the...
Can you take that?
No, I mean, this is to
Shaiba Abdul Rashid, so that these things do not recur.
So personally, I think that there needs to be more sensitization to the fact that as a country we do not practice Sharia, and that the people in Wa are no exceptions to the laws of this country. And so I think that basically all I would say is that there needs to be more sensitization to the laws and like the protocols to which things are supposed to happen. When some things like this happen, then there are like ways that they are supposed to go. I mean, there's reporting them to the police, there's talking to the rural chiefs, and also I just think that's we should follow protocol and do things the way they are, and not sort of even record these things and publicly shame people on social media and all that. I understand that right now everything has to end up on social media, but there are ways to curb it. So we should also watch that as well.
Right, grateful.
So I've seen that this has generated a fair bit of controversy on many social media platforms. A flood of messages coming through on Twitter, on WhatsApp, and Facebook. And I want to quickly go through a few with you, with Kweku. This one says, I support the flogging of these people, which will serve as a deterrent to others, because if we continue with this human rights issue, so there are people who actually support the flogging.
There's actually someone that says that I totally support this. This is something that we can do to rid our societies of such actions. And so there is that support there. This one says, never again should this primitive issue be meted out to citizens of Ghana on their own soil. So he does not support this.
So you see the divide there. Sami also says, it was absurd, barbaric, and inhumane practice to flog the guy and the lady publicly for their sex tape. The perpetrators must equally be flogged to avenge the physical and emotional pains they have suffered.
A similar message here from Clement says, Evans, those who ordered that the punishment be meted out to these victims must also be punished even harder. And they did not do anything right. This is from Clement. What about from Facebook?
And Wanda in Keta says, I think that the flogging was a measure put in place to stop sharing of sex videos on social media, but they should have been counseled and advised rather than flogging them in public. And Dude says, Ghana is not an Islamic state. If care is not taken, what is happening may grow to become something dangerous in the future.
Well, let me take this last one from Facebook from Goel Olonya. It says, there are no customs and cultural laws in Ghana which are above our constitution. Any culture that violates the human rights of Ghanaians is unacceptable and will not be tolerated. The Rwanda must come clean and punish those from his palace who did this.
This one says, Evans, if they will be whipped again, then they should be whipped again. We always talk about rights, where they had taking us to look at where we've gotten to. Today I heard of, he talks about a Mauko girl. She's committed suicide. What is wrong with us, he says. Nat says, Evans, I want to know if we are concerned about the punishment only. What about the act itself? And then finally says, please, in some communities in the Volta region where items are lost and found with no difficulty, unfortunately, modernity in Ghana is being made useless by our law enforcement agencies. Let's maintain the good indigenous culture. Kwame in Akuse. Listen, the views are still coming in on social media. Let's continue conversations there. I know this is one of those very contentious matters, but thank you, Nana Nsakwa, Rafiq Salam, Said Abdul Shakur, Shaiba Abdul, Elisha, who are connected with us on this very interesting conversation. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, Kweku as well. Locker Room is up next with the lads.